It's a love-hate relationship. It's the threshold method. Okay, so it is exactly what it sounds like. Everyone has an anaerobic threshold, and while some of it is genetic, it can be highly trained. And so what we do here is we're trying to increase the aerobic system maximum ATP production, regeneration, so more power can be produced, right? So I'll give you an example, okay? In an MMA fight, you see guys that are, jacked and big, and in the first round, they start punching, right? And they have tons of power, and then they gas out, right? What they do is they go into their anaerobic zone where they can't stay for too much, and they're burning all this glycogen, and they're zapping out, but they cannot produce as much power in their aerobic zone. So tons of power, right? They're anaerobic, they zap out, and then you see these weak punches round two, they get completely gassed and they're done. Where you see somebody like my buddy Demetrius Johnson, who's one of the most conditioned guys and was trained, and is still like the conditioning that Joe put out. He's in the 5th round throwing power like crazy, like almost like in the 1st round. So that is what this allows you to do. Now, the thing about the threshold training is that you do have to figure out your anaerobic threshold, at least kind of. And the best way to do it, honestly, is to just do a gas exchange test. You can go to a lab, it's about $75 to $125. Not practical. It's been a while since I've done it, actually, since my pro day still. But if you really want to kind of geek out and get your exact number, that's what you do. Now, if not, there's a way to do this, okay? And that is to do some type of, I would say, high intensity work for three 5-minute rounds. And so, like for me, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna put on my gloves and I'm gonna whale at a bag, right? I'm just gonna do sparring. So imagine it could be like 5 minutes of like hard sparring. It could be 5 minutes of hard basketball one-on-one, like really like nonstop, meaning, it's like go play, you're playing, boom, bucket, right back at it, right? So it just has to be like really, really high, and you have to wear a heart rate monitor and look at the average heart rate per round, and then average it out over the course of those 3 rounds, right? So without counting your 1-minute breaks, you're gonna do 5-minute rounds, 1-minute break, and you take your average heartbeat per minute of those rounds without the rest break. So basically, it's good to reset. If you have a heart rate monitor, it'll be pretty easy for you to do that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna do 1 round for shits and giggles. You guys will see me wailing on the back a little bit. Tyler will chop it up to make it look fantastic, although I am doing a lot of boxing training right now. But the point of it is that we're gonna calculate, because the thing about the threshold method is that you can't just, most people, they're not really doing it right because they don't know even tentatively their threshold. Because then once you train, okay, you wanna be +5 beats per minute within that heart rate. So I'm gonna give you an example. So let's say my average is gonna be 172 in those routes. I'm making it up. I'd wanna be within 179 to 165 in my training. And then I choose, exercise that you can choose is sparring, running, cycling, playing ball at a high intensity. And you do 3 to 10 minutes per rep, meaning 3 to 10 minute rounds, and then you do 2 to 5 rounds of that, okay? Once to twice a week. So what you're doing is you're training for your aerobic capacity to regenerate at threshold. So as you train yourself, it means that you can create more power in aerobic zone before kind of going over into the anaerobic threshold, right? So I'm gonna put my gloves on. I'm gonna do 1 round at 5 minutes so I can be honest and we can kind of look at where I'm at with my heart rate. I'll make sure that I'm going hard in the paint, and we'll see where I'm at. All right, guys, don't judge me when I'm doing that. But I was about 168, 170 beats per minute for that round. So I would take a minute break. I would do 2 more rounds like that and go hard in the paint. And then I'd average out what my heart rate was for those rounds to kind of find my tentative, I would say, threshold. And once again, right, at least now we're getting some, and like I said, I got this from Joel's. He's done so much testing of this with fighters and endurance athletes, and really found that is a pretty good measure. Like I said, it's not as precise as doing a gas exchange test, which is best, but it does give you this good tentative number that you can work around. And then train, like I said, +5, so I'd be training at about 175, 163 beats per minute if I went off that one round, obviously. And I'd do that for 3 to 10 minutes, okay? And take a break, and then do that for 2 to 5 sets, right? And that would improve my my threshold. So depending on the sport, like I said, look, this could be life. If you like hiking a lot and you're hiking for long periods of time, you'll be able to hike much longer, doing something like a mailbox peak that has high steps or whatever, and stay in that aerobic zone. So don't just think of this as like, oh, well, this is just athlete talk. Absolutely not. Okay, this is just being a better functioning human being, a healthier human being that can recover faster, that's more resilient, that can do more shit without getting tired of getting beat up.